In a world where attention is currency, everyone's fighting to be seen. They post, they speak, they explain. They hope visibility will make them powerful. But Leonardo da Vinci played a different game. He didn't chase attention. He controlled it, not by showing more, but by holding back. And in doing so, he created something most people never achieve: silent dominance. We've been taught that presence means performance, that to be relevant, we must be reactive, that to be powerful, we must be loud. But Da Vinci showed us that real power isn't in what you express, it's in what you withhold. He rarely explained his work. He hid his thinking. He obscured his notes with mirrored writing. He left theories half-finished, deliberately scattered like pieces of a puzzle. People assumed it was eccentricity. They were wrong. It was strategy. Today, we are drowning in expression. The internet urges us to speak now, explain ourselves, share our journey. The workplace rewards fast opinions. Our personal lives feel like performances, always needing to be understood, always needing to be real. But this obsession with transparency creates weakness. It exposes your thoughts before they're ready. It invites interpretation before you're prepared, and it strips you of your most valuable asset: mystery. Da Vinci understood this before modern psychology could name it. The moment they understand you, they box you. They define you. They dismiss you. Unreadability isn't vagueness. It's protection. It's holding the frame while others scramble to guess what you're doing. Let's be honest. Silence is hard. Not talking back, not correcting, not clarifying. It feels like giving up control. But here's the paradox. Silence is what gives you control. We explain ourselves because we're afraid of being misunderstood. We clarify because we want to be liked. We overshare because we think understanding leads to respect. It doesn't. Respect doesn't come from being explained. It comes from being studied. That's what Da Vinci mastered. He didn't need to convince anyone. He let them chase him. He let them wonder. And they're still wondering. Think of the Mona Lisa. Why do people fly across the world to stare at a painting barely 30 inches tall? Why do they crowd around it like it holds divine wisdom? Because it doesn't answer them. It questions them. The smile, the gaze, the background that leads nowhere. It's not what Da Vinci painted, it's what he didn't. That's the secret. You don't need to make noise to command attention. You need to create tension. Tension keeps people coming back. It holds their gaze. It makes them feel there's more. If only they looked closer. Da Vinci didn't just create art. He created gravity. Leonardo wrote more than 13,000 pages in notebooks. Most weren't meant for public consumption. Many were encrypted, reversed, hidden in private libraries. And yet, those pages became legendary. Why? Because what's protected feels important. What's delayed feels intentional. What's unclear feels profound. Unreadability isn't confusion, it's discipline. It's the power of choosing not to explain, not to defend, not to react. It's waiting. Waiting until your presence alone holds weight, until silence itself becomes a statement. That's how Da Vinci dominated. Not by controlling others, but by controlling himself. Most people speak to prove they're smart, to show they're right, to justify a decision. But the more you say, the more you give away. Da Vinci created asymmetry. Others would speak. He would observe. Others would argue. He would sketch. Others would publish. He would vanish, only to reappear with a revelation the world couldn't explain. He turned unpredictability into leverage. He let people underestimate him. He let them fill the gaps with projections. And those projections, those assumptions, made him a myth. Because once people start projecting onto you, you don't need to control the narrative. They'll do it for you. So, what can you do? You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be an artist or an inventor. But you do need to practice restraint. Restraint in when you speak. Restraint in what you share. Restraint in how quickly you respond. It doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you're building. Here's the shift. Stop trying to be visible. Start trying to be unforgettable. Visibility fades. Presence lingers. And presence is created through gaps, through pauses, through the weight of what's held back. That's what made Da Vinci powerful. He gave the world less, so they would feel more. Holding back isn't just a tactic. It's a full psychological posture, one that turns restraint into presence and mystery into power. We've said that Da Vinci didn't explain. He didn't clarify. He didn't publish half-baked thoughts or show his process. But there's something deeper. He used the gaps to shape the world around him. Because when people don't understand you, they work harder. They chase you. They build theories. They assign value that might exceed what's actually there. And that's the secret. Unreadability forces the world to fill in the blanks, and they often fill them with admiration. Why? Because the unknown terrifies people, and anything we fear, we respect. Most people speak to reduce misunderstanding. Da Vinci let misunderstanding work for him. Think about this. When someone doesn't explain their choices, what happens? You start making assumptions. You fill in motives. You project intelligence, depth, purpose, even when it's not confirmed. That's projection. And projection is free power. Da Vinci's silence became a mirror. It reflected what people wanted to see. And because of that, everyone saw something different. But no one could forget him. If you want people to see you as valuable, stop trying to convince them. Make them wonder. Let them think. Let them guess. What they imagine about you will always be more powerful than what you say. Now let's bring this into your world. You go to a meeting. You feel the urge to speak quickly, to prove you're present. You post online, constantly updating, to stay relevant. You explain yourself in arguments, to clear up confusion. But what if all of that is hurting you? Every word you give away is a move. And when you reveal all your moves, you stop being dangerous. Da Vinci stayed dangerous because no one knew what he'd do next. He wasn't readable. He wasn't predictable. And he certainly wasn't transparent. Transparency is not always a virtue. In fact, transparency often removes mystique. And mystique is magnetic. The less you reveal, the more powerful your moves feel when you make them. Leonardo would disappear for years. No explanation, no status updates. Then he'd return with a masterpiece, and silence again. That's how legends operate. In modern terms, it means this. You don't need to show every step. You need to show only when it matters. When you disappear, you create a vacuum. And that vacuum builds pressure. So when you return, you don't just speak, you make an impact. This doesn't mean you ghost the world. It means you learn to control access, control visibility, control timing. The world gives its attention to what feels rare. Da Vinci mastered rarity. There's a reason why the best leaders, thinkers, and creators don't always speak first. Because the first person to speak is the easiest to counter. The most reactive person is the easiest to predict. But the one who holds back, who observes, who waits, who watches, that person becomes hard to read, hard to frame, hard to fight. That's the difference between noise and presence. Presence is silent, it's earned, and it's never desperate. Da Vinci didn't compete for attention. He forced the world to earn his. You may think holding back is passive, that it's hesitation, but it's the opposite. Holding back is a deliberate denial of impulse. It's training your mind to delay gratification, to not answer every question, to not prove every point, to not react when you're baited. That's mastery, and people can feel it. When you're silent and composed in chaos, you communicate something words never could. I don't need your approval to be powerful. That's why unreadability is feared. It tells the world you're operating on your own terms. Da Vinci once said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." But he lived that simplicity not by showing less skill, but by choosing what not to show. He didn't share everything he knew. He didn't need to, because what he shared with precision. You don't need to make noise to show depth. You need to show depth by making silence felt. Speak briefly, act selectively, disappear intentionally. You'll find that the fewer moves you make, the more they echo. In every room, every interaction, status is at play. People are subconsciously ranking everyone around them. Who's confident, who's insecure, who's leading the tempo, and the person who holds back, who doesn't rush, doesn't over-explain, doesn't fidget to be seen, rises. Because restraint implies abundance. The person who holds back implies, I have more. I'm choosing not to show it yet. That's status. It's not being above people. It's being unmoved by their expectations. Da Vinci was unmoved. He created with no deadline. He invented with no audience. And when he released something, the world shifted to him, not the other way around. That's domination through self-command. Unreadability isn't confusion, it's control. Most people think clarity equals strength, that being easy to read is being trustworthy, approachable, respectable. But here's what Da Vinci knew. The more readable you are, the more usable you become. If they can read you, they can use you. If they can decode you, they can control you. If they can predict you, they can prepare for you. Unreadability is how you stay above the game. It's how you make them play your game instead. Da Vinci used silence as a form of warfare. He wasn't just secretive, he was structurally unreadable. Let's break that down. There's a psychological principle you've seen play out over and over. Ambiguity increases perceived depth. When something isn't fully explained, the brain fills in the gaps and often overestimates what lies behind the curtain. Da Vinci leaned into this. He didn't explain the Mona Lisa. He didn't clarify his flying machines. He didn't publish his treatises. He didn't finish his biography. And because of that, he became a question, not an answer. A question lasts longer. Answers satisfy. Questions linger. Questions dominate minds. Unreadable people create that question mark and let the world carry it for them. You might think this kind of strategy is reserved for geniuses, but unreadability isn't about intelligence, it's about discipline. You can practice it anywhere. At work, say less in meetings, but make what you say cut deeper. In relationships, don't rush to explain every emotion. Let people experience your presence in layers. In negotiation, pause more than you speak. Let silence do what words can't. Because in every domain of life, the people who hold back and still command attention become magnetic. Unreadability isn't emptiness, it's potential energy. And potential energy is always more intimidating than kinetic chaos. Let's go back to the Mona Lisa. The mystery of her expression became a magnet, not because it was emotional, but because it was unreadable. People tried to define her. They wrote books, created theories. Her smile became a thesis. Her gaze became a movement. She didn't move. She didn't change. The world did. That's the effect of mystery. It draws people in, not because it says something clearly, but because it says just enough to spark obsession. Now apply that to yourself. Don't tell the whole story. Don't resolve every impression. Don't correct every misconception. Sometimes, letting people misread you is a strategic advantage. It gives you room. It gives you leverage. And it makes them curious enough to come back. Da Vinci was misinterpreted in his lifetime. His projects were delayed. His value was questioned. His secrecy annoyed patrons. But he endured because he didn't play their game. They wanted answers. He gave them sketches. They wanted timelines. He gave them riddles. And what they misunderstood then, the world now treasures. That's the long game. Most people overcorrect the moment they're misread. They panic, they explain, they post, they beg to be seen accurately. But when you do that, you shrink. You become reactive. You give away the very power your silence created. Unreadability protects you from that. It becomes a shield against judgment. Because if they can't define you, they can't dismiss you. Da Vinci rarely argued. He didn't defend himself. He didn't respond to critique. And in that stillness, he became unshakable. Stillness is threatening, not because it's aggressive, but because it's composed. In conversations, the person who pauses, listens, and speaks last wins. Not because they have better ideas, but because they command the tempo. Silence creates discomfort. Discomfort creates reaction. Reaction creates exposure. Stillness lets others reveal their hand, while you reveal nothing. That's what unreadability buys you. Time, space, strategic control. It tells the world, I move when I choose, not when I'm triggered. Here's the truth. Unreadability is hard because it requires delayed gratification. You'll want to explain. You'll want to be liked. You'll want to post that update, reply to that comment, defend that decision. But unreadability means resisting the urge. It means recognizing that attention is not value unless it's earned. Da Vinci didn't chase audiences. He created work that made audiences chase him. You can do the same. If you stop performing, stop narrating your process, stop needing to be seen in every phase. Instead, build quietly, appear rarely. And when you do show up, say less. The silence will speak for you. There's a myth in our culture that to be influential, you must always engage, always respond, always be visible. But friction builds status. Distance builds authority. Mystery builds magnetism. Da Vinci wasn't easy to reach, not physically, not intellectually, not emotionally. He wasn't trying to be your favorite. He was trying to be unforgettable. Unforgettable doesn't mean loud. It means etched into memory. And what we don't understand, what we can't define, etches deeper. Every time you resist explaining, you raise your value. Every time you leave space, you create gravity. Every time you step back, you invite curiosity. Unreadability isn't aloofness. It's generosity in disguise. because the work they do to figure you out makes you unforgettable. Da Vinci didn't make it easy. He made it worth it. Unreadability isn't about being vague. It's about being deliberate. It's not about hiding weakness. It's about protecting strength. Da Vinci didn't stay quiet because he was uncertain. He stayed quiet because he had nothing to prove and everything to protect. That's what most people get wrong. They confuse silence with submission. They think mystery means insecurity. They assume restraint is passivity. But if Da Vinci taught us anything, it's this. What you don't say is where your true power begins. Compulsion is the need to react, to clarify, to respond, to be understood. And that need makes you predictable. Predictable people are easy to challenge, easy to manipulate, easy to dismiss. But the person who can hold still, the one who listens when others talk, who observes when others defend, who thinks when others rush, that person becomes the one everyone watches. Because power isn't always loud. In fact, the most powerful people in history often speak the least. They've mastered the one move that always wins. They wait. So how does this translate to your life? What does unreadability look like in the world you walk through every day? Here's how it shows up. In conversations, you don't interrupt, you let people finish. And then, you ask one question that turns the whole room. In conflict, you don't react emotionally, you don't explain right away. You let the silence make them uncomfortable. You use stillness as pressure. On social media, you post rarely, with intention. Your silence makes each post feel like an announcement. In leadership, you don't justify your direction to gain approval. You set tone by presence, not persuasion. In relationships, you don't overexpose yourself. You share selectively, consciously. You let people experience you in layers. Unreadability isn't detachment. It's a decision to be architected, not interpreted. You are not a product of the moment. You are a figure being carved in time. And time favors the quiet, the focused, the disciplined. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you want to be ordinary, explain everything. If you want to be unforgettable, hold something back. Withholding is difficult. You will feel the tension. People will misunderstand you. They'll press you to clarify, defend, align, confess. And you'll want to explain, to be seen, accepted, understood. But you must remember, understanding isn't the goal. Dominance is. Not dominance over others, but dominance over yourself. Self-mastery is the final form of unreadability. It's what Da Vinci embodied. It's what you can too. You don't need to talk to show you're intelligent. You don't need to post to prove you're relevant. You don't need to react to show you're strong. In fact, the more you withhold, the more they lean in, the more they wonder. Da Vinci didn't just disappear into mystery. He used it as a weapon. He shaped conversations that lasted 500 years because he refused to answer them. This isn't about being difficult. It's about being bigger than the moment. When you stop chasing understanding, you start shaping perception. And perception is everything. Let that sink in. You don't owe the world a play-by-play of your mind. You don't owe an explanation for your silence. You don't owe your story to people who haven't earned it. Da Vinci gave the world fragments, clues, shadows. And in doing so, he built a myth that lives longer than clarity ever could. You don't have to be mysterious to be manipulative. You have to be mysterious to be respected. Mystery says, there's more here, but you're not entitled to it. And that single idea changes everything. If you've made it this far, you're not here for noise. You're here for power. So here's your blueprint. Hold back. Don't explain every move. Let your work and your silence build anticipation. Fragment on purpose. Leave pieces of your thinking visible, but never the whole map. Contradict occasionally. Be complex. Let people struggle to define you. That struggle creates respect. Delay your reveals. Hold your ideas. Let them develop. Then release them with force and clarity. Disappear to grow. Not every phase of your journey needs to be public. The underground work becomes the overground power. Speak like a verdict. When you talk, say something permanent, something undeniable, something that makes silence feel sacred. He sculpted presence. He sculpted tension. He sculpted power in the shape of a smile, a gaze, an idea never fully explained. That's what made him immortal. That's what made him dominant. And that's what you can do. Hold back and dominate.